Hello and welcome to the season 2 of the Great Legal Minds Show, LawWiser's leadership focused podcast series. We are excited to bring the show back with conversations featuring managing partners as well as senior leaders from some of India's leading law firms. In each episode, we will be exploring their professional journeys, the experiences that have shaped them, their approach towards leadership, and their perspective on the evolving legal profession. Our guest today is Naina Krishnamurthy, founding partner of K Law, one of India's leading full service law firms. With nearly 3 decades of experience, she has advised on many of India's landmark corporate, M&A, as well as private equity transactions, and is widely recognized as one of country's leading corporate lawyers. Welcome, Naina, to the show. Really wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you so much, and I'm very happy to be here.
Right. I think I wanted to start this conversation by understanding, the person behind the firm. When you actually founded Key Law in 1999, the legal market was very different from what it is today. So I thought of understanding what really inspired you to start your own firm. Can you just talk about some of your defining experiences, the mentors you had, that really gave you the confidence that you should take this leap?
Okay. Thank you so much. And actually, before I start, I wanted to actually thank you for the first statement you said. I want to understand the person behind the firm. That was my intention when I started K-Law, is that that this firm would not be synonymous with me. Yes, I would be instrumental in setting this firm, but this firm would eventually have an identity that was not related to me. And I feel today, to some extent, I have achieved that. Even from your own statement, when you separate me from the firm, to me, I'm very happy actually that has happened. And I am not synonymous with the firm, or the firm is not synonymous with me. And I feel to some extent, success has been achieved. I just thought I'd say that aside before I start on my journey. Yeah. So, without getting into the war stories of my experience in working with past employers, because I don't think that it's important. Uh, the, Suffice it to say that I started the firm because I wanted a place where I would wake up every morning and come in and say, "Hey, I love going to work. I love going to office."
Yeah.
And as a woman in the 90s, mid 90s, that wasn't really the case with most places. And that was the culture, that was an acceptable culture by most people. It wasn't acceptable by me. I was 26, 27, but I was very clear that there are certain things that I will not accept. There are there is a certain environment that I will not work within. And it doesn't matter whether I don't get me paid or I don't have a job, but I will not accept certain things. And I think that goes back to my parents and the way they have brought me up. I come from a very, very modest house, modest household. My father was in the Air Force. My mother worked front office 12 hours a day on her feet at an ITDC hotel in Bangalore. And but one thing that they both inculcated in my brother and me was that respect, self-respect, dignity, and a certain right to draw certain boundaries, right? Uh, that was inculcated in us, within us, from the time we were aware of the world, and I think that kind of carried me through this phase of my working years. I did gain a lot of experience in the work, in working with other bosses. But I think at some point, 3 years in, after my law school, I said that, um, why don't I start something? Look, I had two choices. I could continue working where I was unhappy, not bringing my best self to the work. I could whine and complain, and that would be my lot, that would be my life. Or I could create an opportunity for myself, right? And to me, the option was there was no other option but to create that opportunity for myself. So I said, let me see what happens. Let me start. And it wasn't even a firm I had in mind. Honestly, I'd like to say to you that, oh, I had this 5-year vision and I wanted this firm. It was nothing. It was a necessity. And I needed to start, and I just needed to do things on my own, at my own pace, in my own style. And I started really, this firm had its roots in my bedroom, which I shared with my brother in Bangalore. In my house is where I started this firm. It's as modest as that. And it's as, if you'd call it, uninspiring as that, because that was it. That was the way it started, because I just needed to start somewhere. And that's where I started. In terms of why I started it, it was very clear within me. I felt that, wherever I worked, I was underappreciated, and I was not given the respect that every person deserves. Every person in any organization deserves, whether they are an associate, whether they're an office boy, whoever it is, right? It does not. You don't have to be a partner to be respected. I think everyone deserves respect, and I felt that was not there in the places that I worked. A lot of them were boys' clubs, right? In those days, so it was just not for me, right? Maybe my tolerance level was lesser than most people, but it wasn't for me. But thank God for that, because KLaw would not have existed. So I always say thank God for bad bosses, because who knows, I may have continued working there and there would have been no KLaw, right? I think my mentors have never been in the industry. My mentors have always been within my family. My mother, my father, my father, who was a feminist even before that word was known or even popular, who always told me that don't come and tell me you can't do something because you're a girl. Just come and tell me you can't do something because you don't have the competence to do it. And when you put it like that, you want to do it, right? You don't have your gender to sort of take defense of, right? So I think I've had very strong women in my family, from my grandmother, my aunt, my mother, and they have shaped the way that I am, and I thank them. They have been my mentors, and I think um, it was not impulsive. One would think that it's impulsive, but it was this deep desire, right within your soul, that says, look, there's something more that that's out there for you.
Right.
Go and find it. And I think that's what got me started with KLaw.
No, Naina, seriously, this is such an amazing, way to really describe your journey. And I genuinely feel that passionate people like you are eventually creating those, pushing the needle and trying to create their own space. Actually, I wanted to ask you about the legal profession in general. It is very demanding, it is fast paced, and is often very unpredictable. You've really spent 3 decades in this profession. So, what do you think has really helped you stay resilient, maintain the perspective that you have, and continuing to perform at the highest level? We really want to understand that.
I think it boils down to the person that you are, right? It's intrinsic, it's not external. You can never you can never sort of hang on to something or anchor yourself to something that's external.
Right.
External factors will never be permanent. They will disappear. Whether they are people, whether there is a certain idol that you hold on to, whether there is a certain, I mean, whatever that external feature is that you're holding on to or you're attached to,
Yeah.
in itself is very transient. It will
Yeah.
disappear. It's never permanent. What is permanent is who you are, the
Right.
essence of who you are. And what I have always done, through the bad, the good, the ugly, through the years. And trust me, I always say an entrepreneur's journey is never linear. It's 5 steps forward, it's 3 steps back, then it's 8 steps forward, then it's 10 steps back some years, right?
Hmm.
And the only thing that keeps me going, and I pick myself up dust off, uh, sort of wash off the blood, if you will, off the battle, and continue one step ahead of the other, is the resilience and the grit that I have within myself, right? And I have come to recognize that, and I've come to sort of respect that. And I think that is what everybody should actually depend on, is what they are within themselves, right? It's very, very easy to sort of attach yourself to something outside of you.
Yeah.
That to me will never give you the kind of resilience over
Right.
time, over
Right.
and over and over again, that you yourself will bring to you. So I don't know if that makes sense, or if that sort of I'm making sense, but I think that's what I have always depended on. So in a very simple word, I have depended on me, and
Sure.
and the person I have grown to be. I'm not saying I was like, I'm happy to say that I feel like I've evolved over the years,
Mm-hmm.
and I have come to depend on that person within me, even when the person outside of me feels like, this is desperate. I don't know. I can't see the way. There's something that within me will always say, don't give up, keep going. And I think that's what it is.
Interesting. This is very interesting, actually. Okay, now let me move to the next part that I wanted to cover is that, one of the biggest challenges that any law firm is actually facing today is developing the future leaders. So, how do you identify and mentor the next generation of lawyers? What qualities do you think are really required to become exceptional advisors and leaders?
I think the first thing is that we have to understand there's a difference in being a boss and a leader, right? A boss is where who'll demand that everyone follow him or her, and a leader will be in service, right? And I think that's a very, very distinct example. It is not the same. A boss and a leader are not the same. You can have leaders in your associate pool. Okay, I have seen leaders there, right? Who will lead by what? By example, right? They will turn up, they will show up, they will show up for themselves, they'll show up for the firm, they will show up for their colleagues. They will lead by example. And I believe in my life, I've always led by example. I've always told my people, I said, I will never ask you to do more than I do myself. Not a single day I will ask you to do anything more than I do myself. And I can say that with complete humility, I'm still the hardest worker in the room, even today, right? And I don't think anyone in my firm will contradict that statement. And I do that because why? I want to show them that this is how you lead, right? This is how you become leaders. You don't become leaders by sitting back on your laurels and telling somebody else, delegating it to somebody else, or ordering somebody else around. No, you show up, you every day, even on the hardest day, you show up and you lead, and you show people the path when they cannot see it, right? That is who a leader is. And I think it's a very, very intangible quality. I
Yeah.
don't think it's about how qualified you are or what a great lawyer you are. And everyone is a good lawyer. I think that everyone has their own skill sets, their strengths, their weaknesses. Everybody has that. But there is something so intangible and yet so essential to make a person who is a leader. So I don't know what defines them. All I can tell you today, 30 years in the profession, is when I see a leader, I know that person, right? And what we do here is we give them a lot of encouragement. We give them a platform so they can continue to grow and develop those leadership skills.
Right. It is very interesting to also see that when you are also, trying to find those future leaders, you'd also be checking if they are actually learning every day. Do
Yeah.
they have that kind of hunger to,
Yes.
learn every day? I think that is
Yeah.
also one aspect I'm sure you would, consider.
Absolutely. And I think it's also, if I can just add, it's
Yeah.
what is it that they're learning?
Right.
It's not so much a subject matter,
Mhm.
but it is in terms of how do I relate to somebody else, right? How do
Yeah.
I show up when a colleague is not able to sort of work on a certain aspect, even if it is not my job to do that,
Yeah.
right? Even if
Yeah.
it's that's not an assignment I'm working on. Will I? I'm just giving you an example, but will I
Mm-hmm.
just show up and say, hey, you know what? Let me help you. I mean, I could go home at 7. I could clock out at 7 p.m. But you know what? I'm going to sit here and I'm going to help you for the next 2 hours, even though it's not
Yeah.
my job. These are things that make it so and I don't think that you can teach these things. I think it's intrinsic in someone. Yes, you can develop it, you can hone it, you can fine tune it, but I think it exists in some, and in some it doesn't.
So I wanted to basically talk about the business of law now, right? So you've advised a lot of those, Indian as well as international clients on M&A, joint ventures, and strategic investments for many years. So as you look ahead, I wanted to understand what trends do you think will shape the next decade of investments in India? So, and also, you can talk about, are there any sectors that, really excite you?
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting question, because since I've been in the profession for 30 years, I've seen the development, I've seen the change in trend in business in India. And from a pure sort of, back office kind of country that we were at one point, right? Back office to the IT companies of the world, um, to becoming front runners in innovation, design, technology, and I think, in one word, to me, India is right at the precipice of that sort of development, which will embody all the innovation, the design, the creativity that we have within this country, that is now coming to the forefront, right? In terms of, just look at the patents that are filed now by Indian, just pure Indian companies in India. This was unheard of even 10 years ago, right? 10 years ago, where people were like, oh, should I not? But what is how do I monetize it? Today, there's no question. Companies are asking us, come, uh, train my engineers, train my design team to identify the innovations, to identify what can be ours, what we can own. And when I look at M&A, or I look at investments today, there's a lot of emphasis on companies that are rich in IP, intellectual property, right? Which means that there is a trend, even from companies outside India looking in, saying that this country is being recognized for its innovation, for its design, for its absolutely new radical ideas, right? Which was unheard of when I started practicing law. And even if you look at funds today, right? There are specific funds that are just investing in deep tech. Which means what exactly? Which means that they see that this country is rich with that kind of technology, those kind of ideas, those kind of innovations, and they are creating funds to invest in that, right? So I think that it's absolutely, the trend is changing, and it's only going to get bigger and better, I think. There's no stopping us now. And also, I think the one of the sectors that has always excited me, always, and this is one of the sectors that I started working in, when I first started, is healthcare. Healthcare, to me, has always been the most exciting area. I know there's renewables, and I know there's, there is that sustainable energies, the sustainable sort of business of that exists in this country. But to me, healthcare is one of the most exciting areas, because we have just touched the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more that we can do. There's so many more innovations. There's so much more reach that we can get to, right? We have not, and look at this country, look at the number of people that are there, the tier 2 cities, the tier 3, the tier 4. I mean, we have not even reached there, right? There are very few companies that are doing that, but there is so much scope for more. So I think healthcare is something that I'm sure you realize that it really excites me, that business of healthcare, or in all of it, all aspects of it. And of course, the other thing, which I myself am personally a person who's a big environmentalist, is sustainable energy, right? So these are the two areas that really interest me, excite me, and I can't wait to see what our country is going to do next.
Right. Very interesting. I think I really wanted to touch upon the buzzword that we have these days, which is artificial intelligence. So, my question is, artificial intelligence is actually rapidly changing the way the organizations are working today. So, how do you see AI transforming the way the delivery of legal services are happening? And what aspects of the legal service do you believe it will continue to remain fundamentally human in the future as well?
I think, we have to distinguish here between legal delivery of legal services, as you put it, right?
Yeah.
So there are two aspects to delivery of legal services. One is your very objective, very clinical aspect of delivery of legal services. And there are certain areas of legal services for sure where we are ourselves using AI to deliver the legal services. But then there is another aspect of delivery of legal services, which I don't believe personally. This is my personal opinion. I'm sure there may be others who have a different point of view, but this is my personal point of view, which can never be replaced by AI, which is the human delivery of legal services, if I can call it that, right? So when I sit with a client and the client is telling me whatever bothers them, or whatever stresses them out, or whatever they're anxious about, when I sit and I'm like, hey, you know what, I got you, right? Don't worry, we've got this, we're going to make it okay, don't worry, it's not as bad as it seems. When he hears me say that, I don't think he's going to get the same level of comfort if he's going to hear a bot speak to him. You know, I think for us, at least, lawyers and doctors and people in this kind of very sensitive kind of services, I think it's going to be a very long time, if ever, that human part, that relationship part of sort of working with a client is going to be replaced by AI. I don't think we will do it, and I don't think clients want us to do it either, right? Yes, they want us to minimize costs where we can in terms of using AI, but at the end of the day, it's me. The client is going to pick up the phone and say, hey, Naina, I have this issue. What do you think? What is your opinion on it? Right? And that is all human. And that is all based on a human relationship and a human connection, which I'm happy to say that no AI is going to be able to replace. So that's my take on it.
Actually, I wanted to ask a very related question with you that, especially at a time when so many law firms are actually embracing AI right now, what do you think a particular law firm should do to remain competitive in this AI-driven future? Are there any aspects that you would
I
want to
think I think
highlight?
I think most law firms are doing that. They're incorporating AI. They're trying to see how efficient they can make services. I would also say that we are also trying to see how we can train our associates, are the young ones, right, so that they are able to adapt and work with AI, just like human beings have adapted and worked with when calculators came out and then computers came out and everyone said we are going to be replaced by all of these. And no, but what did we do? We adapted, right? And I think adapting to AI is the biggest competitive edge that any organization, I'm not just talking about a law firm, any organization will have. Uh, and adapting, when I say adapting, I'm not saying replacing all human beings with AI, but adapting in terms of we adapting, and us working together with AI to make it a more sort of competitive offering, a more quality driven offering, a more economic offering to the clients, right? I think that is what all of us are striving. I don't think we've all come to the solution as yet, or we don't. It's still early days, but I think adaptability is what will give each organization an edge.
Right. I think more and more, time is passed and people have actually leveraged AI in different forms. They will be able to gauge, okay, this is something that will work and this is something maybe, that shouldn't be as an SOP when you're delivering legal services in a certain way,
Exactly.
right?
And that's
Yeah.
and actually I want
Mm.
to add one thing to that, is
Yeah.
that not just adaptability, but what you hit upon, how you adapt as an
Yeah.
organization. That is going to distinguish you from your competitor. Is how did you adapt to AI? How did you bring it into your offering? And how are you making your business more efficient and more
Yeah.
quality driven because of it? So the how of how
Yeah.
you will adapt becomes very key to this discussion.
Right. And I'm sure, you must be getting different kinds of feedback from the clients also. There would be some clients who would say, okay, this is something, if you have leveraged AI, then this is a great thing that you've done. And there would be some probably, people who will be a little bit reserved about the whole thing. So you want to talk a little bit
Actually,
about that
yeah,
experience?
you're
Yeah.
right. You're absolutely right, because there are
Yeah.
some clients who will come out and say, "Hey, do you have AI? Are you using AI? Are you going to?" And of course, we do, and we're doing that. And there are some clients, you'll
Mm-hmm.
be, I mean, you will be surprised, or maybe not, who will say, "Look, I don't want you to use AI, right? I need this to be done by your lawyers. I need I need only human sort of application on this. This is too sensitive." So I do, and there are still so there are still clients who are very wary of it. Okay.
Right.
I myself was very surprised when I had this request very recently from a client saying, do you use AI? And I said, of course, like, we do with our clients. Of course we do. And, we do this for this and, this part of it. And he's like, can I please make a request on this one particular? Please don't use AI. Please use your lawyers. I want proper uh, lawyer level kind of scrutiny on this particular document. So it was very, very clear. So even today, I think some clients are not on board completely. So it's going to take time, but again, adapting,
Got
see,
Very
yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Okay. I wanted to basically, beyond your professional achievements, I wanted to understand what is it that really drives you. You want to talk about your passions or interests that continue to inspire and energize you at the moment.
Um, I think one of the biggest passions, and anyone who knows me enough knows about, is I do a lot of work with animals.
Mhm.
I have I mean, I'm passionate about animal welfare. um, I believe that this earth is not ours, as in just the humans to own and rule and sort of control. Unfortunately, we do that. We think it's ours. It was never given to just us. It was given to every living being. And I think there are enough of people like me in this world, thank God, that we continue to wake up every morning and sort of, drive with that passion in terms of making sure that we are making a difference to animals. So that is my biggest passion outside K-Law. K-Law is my passion, of course. And the other passion, if not equal, if not more, is my animal welfare passion, mission. I work a lot with a lot of organizations, and I don't talk about it a lot. I don't talk about it because it's not. I don't do it to advertise or to gain any kudos on this. It's something that I do personally. It has nothing to do with K-Law. It's my personal interest. It's my personal time, my personal finances that I invest in these projects and these missions, and I take care of a lot of animals. And at some point, there will come a point that I will, I'll set up my own, sort of
Mhm.
sanctuary, if I may call
Okay.
that, for
Okay.
animals. And I think there's still so much to be done in that regard. But um, I always say I lost my eldest dog earlier this year, and I always say that he was my biggest teacher. because they say that pets remind you of the essence of who you are. You know,
Yeah.
so I feel that all the kindness, the compassion, the care that I have today for animals is my Dexter reminded me of those qualities that were there in me, but I'd forgotten somewhere along the way. And when he came into my life, he reminded me of that, and I think that essence stays. And I do this work almost every day. Somewhere or the other, I'm making sure that I'm either rescuing an animal or I'm taking care of some animals, and even and that is, and it's not just dogs, it's any kind of animal that that I see in distress today. Honestly, I can't walk away. That is something that I do. So that is my biggest the biggest passion right now. And hopefully I'll have the bandwidth, I'll have more bandwidth to do this work in future.
Interesting. I'm actually at my last question now. I wanted to understand, as you really look back on your career and ahead to the future, what is the legacy would you like to leave behind for your profession, for K Law, and for the next generation of lawyers?
Yeah.
If you want to talk about that.
I actually, I was speaking at a conference some time back. I was on the panel, and then I got down from the podium, and then there was this one girl. This was in Delhi, and there was this one young girl who came up to me, who was a law student, and she said, "Ma'am, I'm doing my law because of you." And I said, really? I said, why? I said, how? And she says, I come from this little town, somewhere in Rajasthan, the interiors of this town. And she said, my parents, said, no, you can't go to Delhi. It's very dangerous. You can't work. You're a woman. What will you, what will you achieve? You just might as well just get married, do some degree, get married. And she said, one of my old interviews, she said, I showed this to my parents. And I said, if she can do it, why can't I do it? Right. And she said, I'm telling you, ma'am, I'm not joking, that interview changed the way that they thought about law and, as a profession. And today I'm in Delhi because of that. Right. And I'm studying law. And to me, I was so moved by that conversation, because it means that I don't even know where I have an effect on somebody, and a positive effect, right? Yeah. So if I can make a difference to one young girl, okay, and I have created some path for her to walk on, that would be my personal legacy, right? That would be my legacy, right? Because I've always said this right at the beginning when I started this firm from day one. This firm is not about me. It's never about me. It is about the next generation and the next generation. It is to create a platform. It is to create a path so that the others can walk that path, right? More easily than I could, right? So I think for every generation owes it to the next one to do that, to create that path. And I think that is my legacy. And my legacy for K Law is that I just wanted to continue and thrive and flourish long after I'm not there, right? Whether I step back from actively pursuing law at some point to pursue my other passion, or I'm no more of this world. But I want this firm to continue and thrive and soar to great heights, and that would be my desired legacy for this firm. And finally, the way I would be remembered, and what I would, and to paraphrase Frank Sinatra, I would say that people should think of me and say, whether she succeeded or she failed, she did it her way.
Beautiful, Naina. I mean, this is really amazing ending to our podcast series. I think it's genuinely our honor and our pleasure to start our season 2 with you. Thank you. Seriously, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah.
Thank you. It was my pleasure and my honor. And thank you so much. And you've been a great interviewer, and you've asked me very, very searching questions, I think, which I had not thought about for years. So thank you for that. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.